Well, I'm Colleen. Back when we first met, I was Colleen Williams. I got married last year, so now I'm Colleen Buck, which,
Yeah.
well, tell me what's been going on. I mean, I was so shocked to hear the news, and then I read your reasoning, and I was like, that makes sense, but I want to hear it straight from you.
Yeah. You know what? I just, first of all, I feel like um, every founder should be self aware. Every CEO should be self aware of kind of like, where is my lane? Where do I play at? And I think for me, a long, long time ago, I was just self aware enough to say, when it's my time to step down, like I'm gonna do it. And so I remember in 2018, a friend of mine, Mark Solon, who was at Techstars at the time, he asked me, I was like, hey, we're going out to raise our next round. It was our seed. And he was like, are you willing to step down when the time is right? And I was like, yeah. I was like, I don't want to be here, kind of struggling to be here. And
Yeah,
so yeah, like this was the right decision for that. It was just it's time for the company to get its next CEO.
yeah,
And then the second thing, it was like really wanting to take a step back and concentrate on both my physical and mental health.
yeah.
And so that was really important to me. So I think the combination of those two and having our next CEO literally already at the company, it just made this transition much easier.
Perfect. Okay, well then let's roll it back a little bit and like give a little bit of context here. Like, when did you start Upsy?
2015.
2015. And like, what was the driving factor behind that? Like, what made you pick this lane?
It was a huge problem. It was a $47 billion problem that felt like consumers wasn't being fairly treated.
Yeah,
And for me, I'm a consumer guy, and so I just wanted to like create a company where we could help consumers and do good while we do well at the same time. And so that is kind of what kicked this off to
yeah.
start.
So, you talk about like being ready to step down. What do you see as the primary difference between where Upsy is right now, or what Upsy needs right now, versus what Upsy needed when you first started? Like, what are the differences, and why do you think like this is no longer like this needs to be handed off to someone else?
Yeah, I mean, when we started Upsea, we were in a dogfight. Like the industry hated us. Like it was such a dogfight. And I thought that is where my strength lies. I love being in a dogfight. I love when people say we can't do X, Y, and Z. I love when people say, Clarence, like you'll never achieve X, Y, and Z. And so that is where I got the most energy. And just like learning and all the things that go along with that. And now we're at the place where like we're a mature company. Like we got HR. I always say like once you have HR and once you have finance, like you're kind of a mature company at that point. Um, but those are not things that necessarily like excited me
Yeah,
because we were kind of no longer in this dogfight anymore every day. Like it was an industry that actually started to embrace us. Like in 2021, after doing this for a while, it was the first time I got invited to speak at like the National Warranty Conference, and
oh,
it was because finally we were like they looked at us as legit,
yeah,
um, and and that and I thought and I sat back and I just said, all right, there's a better CEO who's going to really, really, really love kind of this next phase and take us to the next level. And that's good for our shareholders. That's good for our team. That's good for our customers. So it was good for everybody involved.
nice, awesome. And I mean, what are the plans? Like, I mean, I know you said you're about to go on vacation. Thank you so much for doing this while you're supposed to be on vacation.
No, no problem.
Um, but vacation, then what?
I don't know. I'm going to spend the next whatever amount of time really just concentrating on my family and my kids. My kids are 7 and 4.
Yeah,
And if you think about this journey with Upsea, it's been 6.5, 7 years. Like I've literally like ignored my kids for most of their lives. So
yeah.
I am really looking forward to just settling down with them and getting into a routine with them. And getting into a routine with my wife, who I've been with for 15 years, but the last 6 or 7, like we haven't been around each other technically. I'm just gonna hang out for a while, man, and enjoy life for a second.
The question that's always on my mind is building in Minnesota. Like we all I mean, talk about that, like what it took to like build such a huge company in Minnesota, to get attention, to get respect, to get the resources that you needed. Like, tell me about that.
Yeah. I always say I've been super fortunate in Minnesota that I feel like I got the cream of the crop investors and angels out of Minnesota, and like what I call like the new guard. So you think about bread and butter, you think about Brett over at Bread and Butter, you think about Ryan Brochure at Mastic, you think about angels like Darren Cotter or Brennan Townley. These guys are all like new thinking. It's none of that like I'm gonna give you a $50,000 check for 50% of your company type stuff, right?
Yeah.
These guys, they get it. And so I think for me, I got lucky there, and so that propelled me to being interesting enough to start getting the True Ventures and the Samsungs and Concrete Roses and all those guys on my cap table. So building in Minnesota, I think building in general is tough, right? I don't care where you're building at. Like building a company from 0 to 1 is incredibly hard. But in Minnesota, I think as an African American, as a Black guy, it was just a tad bit harder. And I don't say that as like an excuse. I say that as like it's a reality. Like if you talk to any Black founder in Minnesota, they will tell you how incredibly hard it has been. But I believe from concrete come roses, right? And I look at my guy Thompson at Nice Healthcare. I look at my guy Tariq at Players Health. Like like if you're building something great, it doesn't like you're gonna find your way through, right? And that is why I'm such an advocate for Black founders, because oftentimes we just need the knowledge. We just need to share the knowledge with each other in order to get each other through the concrete.
Yeah, that makes sense. So this is a question I've been like asking everyone in these interviews, because I mean, who hasn't seen like the Twitter storm that erupted when that girl tweeted out, Black founders don't need mentorship or advice, they just need capital and to be left alone. I mean, and everyone lost their minds. Tell me your thoughts on that.
Um, so I was one of those people that chimed in on that. I actually I didn't agree with that. Yes, we are Black folks in general are over mentored. We all know that. But some of us need to be mentored. You know what I mean? Like I think about all the stuff that I know. Like it's not stuff. Yeah, I read some of it on Google and whatever researching, but a lot of it was other people putting me on game and getting me up to speed quickly, right? And so I think to say like we are, we don't need mentorship. We just need money. Well, I know a lot of Black founders that would get money and they would blow it because they just don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's because like we have this thought that like, well, I don't need anybody to tell me what to do. I just need the money to go do it. And it's like, no, I tell founders all the time, you know how hard it is to spend $1 million? And I'm talking about like at the pre-seed, seed, Series A stage, to spend $1 million efficiently in the right way.
Yeah.
Is incredibly hard.
Yeah.
Now, once you get bigger and things start to work, like you can throw money at a bunch of stuff, right? But in the early days, like you could give a lot of people $1 million and they would not know what to do with it in the right way, right? And being efficient. And so I believe that Black founders need two things. Yes, we need money. That's number one. You like the stats speak for themselves. Less than 2% of VC dollars goes to African Americans. Like that's a problem. They need that. But then we need peer mentors. I don't necessarily think we need like this professional mentor, but I do believe that as Black founders, you should be finding a founder that's ahead of you and a founder that's behind you and a founder that's at your same stage, because you need all three of those people to help you get through some of the stuff that's going on.
Another question I've been asking everyone is talking about, I asked Harold this too, and I'm about to put out content on that. The concept of discerning friend from foe in this industry, because there's a lot of information out there, lots of advice, and people are getting scammed. And like, and sometimes you just get scammed by taking the wrong advice, but sometimes you like lose money. How do you advise new founders on how to discern friend from foe, fact from fiction?
So advice is like assholes. Everybody got one, right?
Yep.
Everybody got advice for you or what you
Yeah.
should do. Here's how I measure people on their advice. Have you intimately been around it? So which means like, are you a VC who's seen this before for a long time and can like with some empathy, you can give me advice, right? Like not like you're right, but like what I've seen, this is what happened, right?
Yeah.
Or are you a person who's actually done it, right? So if you want to raise a C round, right? Your
Yeah.
C round, I'm
Yeah.
probably not the best person to talk to. And I'm gonna tell you that. Like, hey man, like I ain't never done that. But
Yeah.
if you want to talk about raising a seed from a tier one VC, I can talk about that all day, right? And so like I think advice is relative, and I think a lot of times because founders, like especially Black founders, we're trying to figure out how to play the game, right? And how to do this. And we
Yeah.
often latch on to anything that sounds good,
Yeah.
right? And not looking at the credentials of that person. Like, have they done it? Have they been around it? Da, da, da. And so there's a lot of scams. There's a lot of, I mean, you're on Clubhouse. Like Clubhouse
I
is
am.
like
Yeah.
Scamville, right? Like
Seriously.
it's
Yeah.
crazy. But that's why you need to have like peer mentors, because when you hear something, you can actually go to that group and say, hey, somebody told me that I should not use a deck or a memo or anything to pitch investors. Like if they don't invest in, they're stupid. Well, like a person who's done it is probably gonna say, hey man, you got to give them something. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
I just feel like you got to get a group of people around you who care about you authentically to tell you the truth.
So another thing that I think about a lot is Cheryl Dorsey from The Plug posted one time about on Twitter about, I guess, credential stacking, and as a means for Black founders to kind of like get their toe in the door, you know.
Yeah.
And I remember you very clearly said, "I'm not doing none of that shit," and I felt that in my soul because I was like, it's exhausting, it's expensive, and sometimes it doesn't work. All you get is a bunch of like expensive credentials, and these people still don't like you. And
Right.
it's just like, talk about like navigating these spaces without the prestigious credentials, without the Ivy League, without the all that stuff that comes with it.
Yeah, you know what? It is I see it from both sides. I see it from, the other side, like the white guy side. I see it there. But I also see it from our own people sometimes. Look, I'm brash. I am I don't fit any traditional mold. Like, I say whatever the hell I want to say, and I take the consequences. I think often on the first side, the white side, like often people are just taken aback, right? Because they feel more comfortable with the Harvard dude or the Yale woman, or that they feel more comfortable with that, right? But on the Black side, I can't tell you how many times I've talked to a pre-seed founder and they have a Harvard MBA, and like they've done all this stuff. They've worked at McKinsey, and they decided to start this business, and they literally just treat me like what they say is, oh, if you done it, then I know I can do it. And I'm just like, wow.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
and then what never fails is they spend the next couple years doing it, and then they come back and they say, wow, that was really freaking hard. Like,
Yeah.
I wasn't able to do any of that, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like on the white boy side, it's like here's what I don't believe. I'm not even gonna go to the east side. Here's what I believe. I'm gonna be authentically myself, right? I'm gonna be Clarence every day of the week, every month of the year, for the next whatever amount of years that God allows me to stay on this earth. And I feel like that has won me more people, that have won me more employees, that have attracted more talent, just being myself. Because oftentimes people don't know who you are. Like they meet you this way and then you become this way and then you start acting like this way. Like I think, one of my advantages has been people, it didn't matter whether, like it didn't matter. Like you were going to be around Clarence and Clarence was going to be himself.
Yeah.
And I think that has attracted just some unbelievable people. So I don't believe in the whole, credential stacking. I feel like that's stupid. And people go $300,000 in debt for what?
Yeah.
Like to go work at McKinsey, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense for sure. So, I mean, credential stacking is one thing, obviously, but like founders need education for sure. And I mean, we've talked about and we're not talking about, we've talked about the misinformation economy, I guess, but when you're a founder and you are serious, you are focused, you are trying to fill your knowledge gaps. Aside from mentorship, which we know it has a limited place in the building process. Like, I mean, so it's at a certain point, mentorship has to stop and doing has to begin. So when a founder is genuinely trying to fill in their knowledge gaps and give themselves an education on the job, what do you recommend?
I tell every founder to go read Venture Deals by Brad Feld. That is like, I mean, you want 101, like VC 101, that is the book that you go read. The second thing to do, like Google is really great at like these acronyms that often we don't know, right? So I say CAC to some people and they're like, huh, what does that mean? Like you literally can go to Google, type in CAC and it will tell you what CAC means, right?
Yeah.
So like let Google be your best friend when it comes to that. Because there's a lingo that you have to be able to speak
Yeah.
in order to even get in a room.
Another question. Let's talk about raising pre-revenue.
Yep.
Like, did you raise pre-revenue? Do you recommend
No.
it? Go ahead.
No, so it didn't raise pre-revenue. We have revenue when we raised our first pre-seed round. Like I think in this world we live in today, it is acceptable. Like I know a guy that just raised 10 mil on pre-revenue, right? Like
Yeah.
it's acceptable. Understanding the stakes are higher. They're super high, right? Like it's no more raise $1 million and then get the product built and then go raise 5 million and then start to generate revenue. If you raise 10 million, like you got to be coming out the gate pretty high. And I think that's the risk of today.
Yeah. So now that you're wrapping all of this up, you're going to take some time off. You're going to go spend time with your family, all of that. Let's talk about the mental and physical health part. I think that is perfect. Let's talk about, like you elaborated a little bit on, kind of family life and physical health and mental health kind of falling off during the past few years. Like, can you talk a little bit more about that and like what you recommend to founders coming up behind you to maybe offset some of that? Like, tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, people talk about balance all the time, and I just don't believe in it. I'm not a balanced guy. I am I want to build this thing, so I'm going to go 100%, 150%, 200%. But with that comes things suffer, right? And my both my physical and mental health have suffered like mightily over the last couple of years, as you said. And then the toll to your family. Like I said, like my kid is 7 and 4, and sometimes I look at videos and I don't even remember like that time in their lives. And it's because I wasn't present. So I was there, but my mind wasn't present because I was thinking about something Upsie. And so like it just takes a toll when you're running that fast and going that hard. And then you add the stress of, like you have a team that you are responsible to, and you feel like you want them to continue to grow, right? And so you have that pressure on yourself. You have investors that you've raised tens of millions of dollars from. Like you have all of that, and you're just like that. The stress is just high all the time. I think when it comes to founders, like I don't lie to founders and say like, hey, you should have all this balance in the early days. I actually want to see you go hard. I feel like that's how you make it to a point where you can take a step back.
Yeah.
Because you can start hiring great people, and then like you can start to get these responsibilities that you've been doing since day one off your plate, and you got really great people doing it. But I believe in the early days, like you got to get after it.
Yeah.
Like, and I know it's this big thing going on right now where it's like mental health and balance and da da da. Like personally, I just like that's just not how I roll. Like it may be good for you or another founder. For me, I'm gonna go like to the wall, and
Yeah.
then I'll catch you on the other side.
So, how did you decide who should replace you as CEO?
Yeah, so I feel like this process is normally hard for for companies because you got to go out and you got to recruit and do all that stuff, right? I was fortunate to have ours sitting inside the company. I've been working with Will, God, for almost 3 years now. When he joined us, and I knew a weekend when he joined us, I was like, this guy's sharp. We're going to be able to partner together. He's a really, really humble and down to earth guy, like great father, great husband, and it's just like we vibed on all of that. And so when this, was going through our mind, I was telling him like, hey, I am thinking about making this move, and I'm thinking that you are the right person to make this move with.
Yeah.
Um, and so and I think our transition, our process has been really seamless, both to the board and to our investors. We're getting a guy that he really knows the industry. He knows our business like the back of his hand. He has incredible empathy. We talk about grace at Upsie all the time, and he has like an incredible grace meter, and I think that's really important to have as a leader. So I'm
Yeah.
excited about what he's going to do, and I'm excited to partner with him and just be an executive chairman and just really like give him what he needs so he can be incredibly successful.
So, I'm assuming there are no plans to move the company from where it is right now.
Nope,
Okay.
no plans.
No plans. Okay. How did your investors feel about it? I know you said someone asked you if you were ready to step down when the time came, but like was that like a general consensus with your investors, like, that might need to happen?
No, I think this guy was he at the time he was investing, and I think what he was trying to measure was my uh, EQ. He was trying to
Yeah.
measure like how
Yeah.
self aware is this guy, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Um, and I think our investors now, like I've gotten nothing but like unbelievable like praise and respect from my investors. I believe that they believe, and I'm speaking for them, so I'm not saying something that somebody
It's
said.
okay. It's okay.
Um, but I believe that they believe that this should happen more often. That
It's
founders
okay.
should be more self-aware to understand like when is my time up.
Yeah.
And so I've there's always haters, right? There's always gonna be
Yeah.
haters. But like for the most part, it's been like my text and my email has been filled with people who are just like, congratulations. If you do anything else, like come to me first. Like I wanna be the first check in. And I think that speaks to kind of not only how I ran the company as CEO and the respect that I gave them, but the kind of people that we had on our cap table.
That makes sense. How do you advise founders on this sort of self awareness and emotional intelligence? Because, like myself included, we're kind of focused on the grind right now. Like we're trying to build something and we take a lot of pride and ownership as we should. But then how do we have that? Should we have that in the back of our heads? Like, you know, we might be here for a season of the company and then like how to start succession planning feels like so far away for many of us.
Right.
It's like we haven't even gotten a revenue yet, we haven't even
Right.
gotten off the ground, so we like, but is that something that should be more like kind of like a little bit more forward in the brain, like maybe this is gonna need to happen someday?
I believe if you live in reality, you should always be like, your question to yourself should be like, at what point, at what stage am I not the right CEO and the right leader, right? And that's
Yeah.
actually not about leadership. I'm a very like motivational, like move people forward, da da da. It's like when is my skill set in the business not the right skill set for where it's trying to go?
Yeah.
Yes, do I believe that you should be aware enough to think about that? But like when you're pre-revenue, you're just trying to get going.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that should be so far down the line to you.
Yeah.
But you should be writing down, like, here's my strengths, right? Like right now, I could pull out a notepad and show you these are my strengths, right?
Yeah.
Like these are the things that I'm really good at, and these are the things that give me joy and energy. Once those things are not happening anymore, then I should be self-aware enough to say, all right, it's time for somebody else.
Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. Well, I am done. Thank you so much, Clarence. I mean, I really, really appreciate this. Congrats on everything you've done so far. I mean, Upsie is an inspiration to all of us. Thank you so much, Clarence. Have a great weekend.
No, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
See you.